Hello viewers and welcome back to Retro Gadget Man. I've always been a big fan of the wood grain finish on electronics. Lots of products came with this fake effect on their cabinets back in the 70s and 1980s. And some hi-fi of the time period actually had real wood panels added to their sides, whilst others had a wood veneer applied to particle board, or they were simply a print added to the plastic housing. As we went into the late 80s, early 1990s, some equipment manufacturers such as Sony amongst others started to add wood panels again, but only on their high-end products. I always thought they looked really good, but sadly you don't see it anymore in today's products, probably because we don't really have all the equipment that we used to need back in the day. And let's face it, we had a hell of a lot of gadgets, didn't we, back in that time period? Clock radios, CD Walkmans, cassette Walkmans, PDAs, hi-fis, tape recorders, just to name a few. Today it's all done with pretty much one device, isn't it? It's streaming and digital downloads via smart TVs, tablets and mobile phones. We listen to our music that way, and we watch TV that way, and we do pretty much everything that way now. It's a shame really, because we've lost that tactile experience of turning knobs and pushing buttons and flicking switches and sliding sliders. Instead it's just stroke the glass all day long into the early hours of the morning whilst binge watching a TV series, because for some reason we don't want to put a movie on because it seems too long. Doesn't really make any sense, does it, that? So whenever I see a product, usually on eBay, with a wood grain effect, I'm immediately drawn to it. I don't know what it is about it, it just oozes nostalgia for me. And it has all those aforementioned buttons and knobs and sliders, which I still like to mess around with. And here we have a lovely example of a piece of equipment from the year 1980, a Betamax video cassette recorder. Weighing in it at a whopping 15 kilos and retailing at a price I suspect between £600 to £700 back in 1980, it was certainly a lot of cash. But it did have a LCD digital clock. Not many video recorders had these back then, they were usually mechanical. Some of you may remember this, as I bought it some time ago now, and I unboxed it in a previous video, which was around about 2021, well that's when I recorded it. I didn't upload the video until 2022, so I'm a little bit behind on my videos. I have to confess I actually started working on this machine back in December 2021. Upon the first inspection I found it to be dead, and when I opened it up I noticed that the filter capacitor had exploded, taking out a 500mA fuse with it. I also noticed underneath that some of the belts were looking a bit iffy. In fact, one of them had completely perished, and it turns out it was actually an elastic band. So up next is a sequence of events of myself getting this machine back up and running. At this point it's already opened up, so with all that said, let's get right to it. Okay, now that we have the Betamax opened up, we can get started. As I mentioned before, one of the first things I noticed, having a quick look around, was the refo cap on the power supply board. It has exploded, as they invariably do at this age. It's also taken out a 500mA fuse with it. So let's get that cap replaced first and see if we can get some power into this machine. As you can see there, it's crumbling away, it's exploded. It's all swollen basically and come away at the sides. And the fuse that's blown is that one there. Luckily I do actually happen to have one of those. So we'll get that capacitor out first. The little plastic cover here. To pop that off. And we're looking at that point there and that point there. Pop that screw back in for a moment just to hold that in place while we remove that bit of solder off the old cap. Just pop a new bit of solder on just to make it a bit easier. There we go. It's completely erupted, hasn't it? Just going to give that a bit of a clean with some isopropyl alcohol there. Put that cover back on. To swap out that fuse now. .500 milliamps. Yeah. Okay, I guess we're ready to plug it back in now and see if we get any life out of it. Okay, fingers crossed. Let's see if it's going to work, or it may go bang. There we go. The clock's on. Wow, sign of life. I bet this is the first time it's been powered up for a long time. So let's switch it on. Oh, we've got a function light. It's always a good sign. Don't know if that's showing up on camera, but the channel lights are working. That's good then. Time adjust. Yeah, that's working. Okay, so I guess the next thing to do will be to have a look at those belts underneath. Let's take a closer look at that. I have already been in this already. There's a screw. It's one of the things I love about these old VCRs is how easy they are to work on. There we go. So we've got one belt intact up there, but this one here, look, somebody's used an old rubber band. I have done that trick myself actually years and years ago when I was a teenager, not having any spare belts. I used to just grab whatever I had to hand. It will work, it's a temporary measure, it will get it going just to see if it's running. But obviously to get the correct tension and everything you do need the proper belt. So I was just going to look through my stash now and see if I've got anything in. Well, it actually turns out there was actually two belts, one there for the main drum for the heads and then one for the capstan motor. So I've just popped on a couple of elastic bands just to try it out, just to see if we get any life out of it. So we'll try that next. Okay, let's pop a tape in and see if it laces up. Oh, it's going round. That was very fast at lacing. Right, let's press play. Right, oh, it stopped. Probably because the tension's a bit too tight on with the elastic bands. But it is trying to play. Oh, it stopped now. Try fast forward. No. It wants to play, but there's elastic bands. I think one of them is just a little bit too tight. I was going to have a look and see if I've got another one that's a little bit looser. Okay, I've replaced those two bands with some that are slightly bigger, so let's see how it goes this time. No, it's still just stopping. Fast forward's not working either. Or rewind. If I eject that tape now, it's going to end up staying up laced around the heads because the take-up spool's not going to take it back into the cassette housing. Let's just have a look underneath of it while it's running and see what it's actually doing. Okay, let's see what happens when I press play. So the solenoid's kicking. Oh, there we go, the belt's just come off. So that one's not having, it's because it's the wrong shape. It's not a V belt. This one is one that fits in the groove. Might have one actually, my SLV or SL2000, so I'll go and have a look in there quickly. Okay, I've just looked inside one of my SL2000s, which are both faulty at the moment, and it turns out there's a V belt in there, it fits this. So let's see how we go with this one. It's running. Very briefly. I wonder if it's because it's on its side. Let's try turning it back over. Okay, let's try it again, right way up. It's going round. Will it stay going? I think we're in business. Let's try rewind. No. They all seem to suffer with rewind and fast forward, the Betamax as well, especially rewind. Now play's playing up. And the dreaded tape problem where it doesn't take it back into the housing. I hate it when this happens. Luckily it's my test tape and not anything of any value. Well, there we have it. We've got a picture now. It's reluctant to play. I have to turn it off and back on again in order for the play button to stay down. Not quite sure what would cause that. If anybody knows, let me know in the comments. I think this is going to be an ongoing project. It's possible that the belt that I put on, the temporary belt around the capstan motor, is just a bit too tight, which wouldn't surprise me actually. In fact, I might actually try out the capstan motor belt of the SL2000. Probably do that next actually. I've got a bit of a picture there. Tried adjusting the tracking, but it's not really making any difference, but I think it's because of the belt. And that's central. Well, we have success. It's now running. I've actually got a good picture. It's playing back fine, but it doesn't like rewind or fast forward on certain tapes. It seems to be the Scotch tapes it's playing up on. A nice colour picture there, an old movie from the 50s. So next thing to investigate will be why it's not rewinding and fast forwarding. Now, if my memory serves me correctly, the Betas all seem to struggle with rewind especially. It could be the, I always forget what it's called, the idle wheel. It might just want roughing up a little bit just to give it a bit more grip. But I'll investigate that next. I'm just pleased at the moment I've actually got a picture and it's actually running. considering this machine was completely dead. I think I'm quite lucky to get anything out of it at all. So like I said, the next thing to do will be to have a look at those the idler and find out why it's not taking the tape back into the cassette housing when I press eject, which is rather annoying because it's crumpling up my tapes. So the next thing I'm going to do is take this loading mechanism out to have a look underneath at the idler to see why it's not rewinding properly and taking the cassette tape back into the housing. Just looking at those screws down there, looks to me like someone's been at this machine before because they're slightly rounded off, but there's quite a lot of dust over them, so it's probably been some time since anybody's been in there. And also the screws to the lid there as well, they're a little bit suspect looking. So we'll get that off next and have a look underneath and see what's going on under there, because I've already chewed up 2 tapes with it not ejecting properly. Okay, so just a bit of an update on how far I've got with this now. I actually stopped what I was doing, started watching some YouTube videos, and I came across a user called Video99 who's actually worked on the exact same machine, and he did exactly the same thing I did. He put that belt on there onto the video head drum motor, because it just seemed so obvious that it was there because there is a little pulley at the bottom of the video head drum. So I had that belt going from that wheel there to this one, and he says that that stopped his eject problem where the tape was staying laced up around the heads and not going back into the cassette. So I've now put the belt back in the right place. Obviously, to look at it, you can't see that pulley right behind there. Because the belts had perished, I had no idea where they actually went. So I was just using common sense and my own observations, as he did as well. I've used my belts from my video for my Betamax SL2000, so I've got 2 of those. So I've borrowed belts out of that for now just to see how far we get. So I'm just going to pop that bottom board back on and we'll see if it's ejecting properly now. Okay, so it's all back together now. Let's power it up. Let's see if it's working any better. Strange, it didn't lace up straight away. That's good, we've still got a picture.
Slaughter people. Let others go in. I will not. This riot is not of my making. I'm not responsible. You're responsible for order in the prison.
Not sure if their voices sound a little bit warbled, but let's just try the eject and see if it unlaces correctly now. Oh. Yes, finally. Oh, that's good then. That sorted that problem out. So that's another another fault solved. Let's look at the rewind and fast forward next. Oh, fast forward's working. I don't think it was doing that before. And rewind's working now. Brilliant. That's it then. Oh, it's slowing down now. So these machines never were very good at rewinding, because all the tapes laced up around the heads, there's just too much friction there. It's never going to be as fast as a VHS machine. Fast forward working okay. Rewinds starts off fast and slows down. It's not a bad picture when you think how old the tape is. The recording was probably done in the 90s. Obviously there's no HQ circuitry in this time period. That didn't come out until the I think it was the late 80s. Still amazes me that this machine's got slow motion.
It is the safety of the soul that my faith promises, not of the body. With your permission, Shinzan, I'll go to the prison. I'll try. I have many.
Getting a little bit of RF interference there on the TV.
Shall I
Oh, that's
use
better.
your services so that you may save the face of your religion? If my religion loses face, how will my service be of value?
I think it sounds alright now. I think some of these controls probably want a bit of lubrication. The old grease has probably got a bit sticky, that's why it's probably struggling a bit with the eject and the play. Okay, I think we'll give it a bit of a dust out now and a clean, get some bits lubricated and see if that makes any difference with the eject, because the button is sticking now and again, and then we'll have a look at that rewind. Okay, so that's the rewind wheel there. What I've done is I've got the screwdriver and I've just scored around it so that the wheel there will have a better grip on it, basically. Because I know some tapes seem to be worse than others when it comes to rewinding. It seems to be the Scotch tapes actually that seem to be a bit stiffer. That was another hint that I found on Video 99's YouTube channel. He did that and that worked for him, and it seems to be working for me now as well, to a point. Still not very fast, but it's better than no rewind at all. And I've given it all a bit of a dust out now as well. I'm just going to carry on lubricating it now. And there's rewind, it's working a lot better now. So just scoring that wheel does seem to have helped, giving it a bit more grip. Okay, just a bit of an update on the rewind mechanism. I thought it was okay, but it's still quite sluggish on a lot of the tapes. So scoring the reverse wheel did help a little bit. Well, I've since managed to source a belt kit. It's actually for a Toshiba V5470. Can't find any information about that model actually, but it's very close to 5470, so it's probably the same belts. I think there's 7 in there, which is what this machine's got, I think. So I'm going to try changing that belt there now. Let's get a screwdriver. This one here, because it's looking a bit frayed and cracked, so maybe that will help it. So we'll try that next, see if that makes any difference. Okay, so I've replaced that little belt for the rewind mechanism. Let's see if it makes any difference. No. Still playing. No. Might just be this tape actually, because this was one of the ones that wouldn't rewind at all before. Still sticking on that eject mechanism. One of our dinosaurs is missing. Let's see if this one rewinds. No. It seems to be worse now than it was before. That belt was pretty much the same size as the one I took out. So I don't know, I don't think it would be too tight. It was only a little bit smaller, like a fraction. least it's still playing back okay. See if it's ejecting right. Yeah, it's got the same problem that video 99 mentioned on YouTube. So basically, it's in rewind, but the fast forward wheel is rubbing it at the same time. So obviously they're going opposite way around. That was fine. How odd. Dropped that belt off, haven't I?
What's ahead for moi? More money than you ever dreamed of.
Don't cross Gordon. He'll crush you.
Michael Douglas, Charlie Sheen, Daryl Hannah and Martin Sheen in a film by Oliver Stone, Oscar-winning director of Platoon. Wall Street, Friday at 10 on Sky Movies.
On Sky Movies now, there's comedy, suspense and danger as a group of kids find themselves on the wrong side of town, way past their bedtime. This is tonight's 8 o'clock movie, Adventures in Babysitting.
Well, turns out that I knocked the belt off for the counter, and that was basically getting in the way of the rewind mechanism. I didn't notice that was off actually, so I must have done it earlier on. But suffice to say, rewind is now working. So changing that belt did actually help. Rewind and fast forward are working perfectly, so is playback. So I guess we have success then. The only thing now that's niggling me is when you press eject, it's not always working straight away. You wiggle it around and then eventually it works. I've lubricated it everywhere and I can't see where it's being held up, but I guess I can live with that. So it's all working now, that's it, it's fixed. Just got to put that belt back on. One more thing I want to look at actually is the clock. It's supposed to light up apparently. I noticed that, I think it was on Mr. Beta Man, I've forgotten his name now, Beta, I'll add it in the, I'll add it afterwards. But Betabyte, Mr. Betabyte, that was it, a YouTuber, Mr. Betabyte. He mentioned the clock does actually light up, so I'm going to look at that next and see what's going on there. I'm going to pop the front off because I'm going to need to put that belt back on. And we'll have a look at that, see what's behind this panel. Okay, got the front off, came off relatively easy, just 4 screws. While I'm in here I've noticed we've got some date codes. If you've ever seen these before, these are markings on the plastics that show when the plastics were made themselves. We've got here April 1980, or sorry, not April, June 1980 for the plastics at least. So I should imagine the machine would have been assembled around the same time. Here's the back of the clock. I was quite surprised to see actually a surface mount IC there. I didn't think that kind of technology was around back then in 1980. Got the clock out. Now it looks like we've got a couple of little incandescent light bulbs down each side there. So I should imagine they're probably blown. Not sure if I want to bother opening it all up actually just to check that out. I don't want to do any more damage to it because it is working okay. Just for the sake of a couple of light bulbs, which I don't have anyway. I'm sure you could probably replace them with LEDs. But I think I'm just going to leave it and put it back together. I'm happy that I've got the tape transporter working okay now, that's enough for me. So after putting the counter band back on, it was slow on rewind, not as fast as it is without it being on, so I've decided to leave it off. I don't need the tape counter. I'm just going to be purely using this for playing back old tapes, so I've decided to leave it off altogether. It's running quite well without it. So with that being said now, all that's left to do is put it all back together and give it a wipe down. Okay, we're back, and here it is up and running. I'm actually doing a recording now straight to tape on here to demonstrate the picture quality in a moment and the sound. However, I'm finding that I'm having problems with the sound itself. It actually warbles on playback. It's quite annoying actually. I'm finding that if I have the machine up on its side, with the bottom open when I'm monitoring it, it plays back okay, or it seems to. It might have just been a one-off. But while it's upright like this, the sound's all distorted again. The best way I can describe it is like a warbling type sound, which I'll demonstrate in a moment. It sounds like people's throats need to be cleared. I'm quite sure that I replaced all the belts, but one thing I have noticed is a nylon pulley under the toe-cut spool. It looks like a two-part affair, like a friction type. And it's not quite running smoothly, as you can see here in this short clip I made. As you can see, as it's turning, it's a little bit smoother, suddenly it jolts. Perhaps the idler rubber needs replacing, the little wheel that rubs up against the take-up spool, or it could be something else. If anybody has any suggestions about this, please let me know in the comments. Then in a future video perhaps I can have a look at this to try and correct this fault. So it's time to have a look at what the quality of its own recordings are like. I've already done a test and it's not great, to be honest. I think my tapes are probably a little bit worn out. The tape I'm using is one of the last Sony ones that you could buy in the shops, if I remember rightly. I think it's a Dynachron they make, Sony Dynachron or Dynatron. I'll put that up in the post-production. I'm using a Sony V5470B Trinicon video camera here from around 1982, one of my favourite domestic cameras of the time. So let's have a look, and here we go. The audio that I'm recording right now is actually separated. I'm recording it separately. Because I always find it's better to do that with stuff like this. And now I'm going to switch over to the audio from the actual machine itself. And here you go, you can hear just how warbled it is. In fact, it's very, very annoying. I can't listen to this for too long myself, so I won't make you listen to it either. So I shall now switch back to the ordinary audio. Let's hope that I'm actually getting a picture here right now. I'm sure I will be, because I did do a test before, but as any of you know that collect these things, they can be working fine one moment and then not the next. I did give the pinch wheel a good clean as well. I did find it to be a little bit loose, which could also be affecting the audio playback. I can't think of anything else it could be. I'll give it the head to clean, but that seems to not have made any difference whatsoever. So like I said before, if anybody has any suggestions, please let me know in the comments. Well, there you have it. I think that's just about the end of this video. It's gone on for quite a long time for me actually, just over 18 months altogether from buying the recorder itself and doing it up, doing all the research and the repairs. I must say I have enjoyed it. I've still got to do a bit of cleaning on the machine yet, and also I forgot to mention actually, that front metal panel, it's actually come unglued. I forgot to mention that before now I think about it. All the glue I noticed started dripping out of it. It's like it's breaking back down, so that's something else I need to look at in the future as well. Came out like treacle out of one end when I had it leant on its side. Very strange. Well, I guess that just leaves me to say, as always, thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll be seeing you. And if you did enjoy watching this video, you may want to take a look at some of my other videos on similar themes. I'm always buying something on eBay, some more piece of technology, and trying to repair it. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe and share. Thanks for watching.